Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is the Friday, March 18th meeting of the West County Concilio Latino. Concilio Latino is a network for individuals and organizations working with the Latino community in West Contra Costa County, which meets monthly to identify needs, share resource information, and advocate for gaps in services for the Latino community at the local, state, and federal levels, and specifically address the needs of the monolingual Spanish-speaking community. Concilio Latino partners with coalitions of diverse civil and human rights organizations to advocate and participate in activities, events, and movements towards social justice for all underserved and underrepresented and targeted communities. Also, we recognize that we are presently on the land of the Chochenyo, Muecma, Karkin, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. So welcome everyone, and we'll start with our introductions, and I'm sure more people will join us in the next hour and a half. So let's start with my name is Consuelo Lara, and I'm a facilitator, and I'm also on the Contra Costa County Board of Education. And Madeline.
Good morning. I'm Madeline Cronenberg, and I'm here representing the West Contra Costa County League of Women Voters.
And Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Persley, and I'm with West Contra Costa Adult Education in the English as a Second Language program.
Thank you. And Yoli.
Hi, good morning. My name is Yuali, and I'm with First 5 West County Regional Group.
Okay. And what happened to Betty? Oh dear, we lost her. Okay, well, as people come in, then at the end, we'll introduce these individuals. And so I'll let Ms. Becton introduce herself, and yeah, and we can begin. Oh, there's Betty. I'm sorry. Betty, you want to introduce yourself?
Betty Brown, a retired school public health nurse from the local district, and representing Healthcare for All Contra Costa chapter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Betty. Okay, Ms. Becton. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, I should say to everyone as well. An absolute pleasure to have a few minutes to share with you today. I'm Dinah Becton. I am your district attorney for Contra Costa County. I was appointed in 2017 and elected by the people in 2018. Prior to that, I served for 22 years as a judge here in Contra Costa County, at which time I was elected as the presiding judge over the entire court and a budget of about $54 million, which is certainly, having all of that experience comes in very handy as a district attorney today. When I served as a judge, I served over complex criminal and civil matters, as well as environmental cases. I supervised not only the entire court, but I also at one point supervised the civil division. I was supervisor of the felony criminal calendar, and I served as a felony criminal trial judge for 6 years. In addition to that, I would add that I served as president of the National Association of Women Judges, the nation's leading voice for women in the judiciary. And I was also president of the State Bar Council on Access and Fairness, always opening bridges and building bridges and opening roads for women and people of color to be able to move into positions in the legal field. Currently, I have the pleasure of serving by appointment of the governor on 2 important places. I serve as the public member on the state of California's Victims Compensation Board, making sure that victims of crime are getting fair and just compensation. And I also serve on his Judicial Selection Advisory Committee, which gives me an opportunity to vet those who might sit as judges, not only here in Contra Costa County, but also around Northern California. So it's a pleasure to be with you today. I have just a brief video so that helps me to stay on track as I share with you the work that we're doing in the district attorney's office. I'm going to try to go through these slides pretty quickly so that I can leave time for you to answer questions. I want to make sure that I put this slide up just to remind us that we are part of a collaborative effort almost always. We're always collaborating not only with justice partners that you think about, like our courts and probation, but we're also collaborating with community groups and community-based organizations as we carry out our work of bringing justice to Contra Costa County citizens. I preside over a $49 million budget. 27.3 million comes from federal and state funds, as well as Prop 172 funds, and $21.7 million comes from the county. My office is run primarily by people, so over 93% of my budget goes to salaries and benefits. Please don't pay any attention to the vacancy factors. They're always changing, and so this hasn't been updated in quite a while, and most of these positions have been filled. As you can see, I have a staff of 226 attorneys who work in so many different units in our office. Our investigative arm, which are our sworn peace officers who help us out in so many ways, including sometimes following up on criminal investigations. They stand up our officer involved shooting protocol investigations, and they also help us subpoena and locate witnesses and testify in court. Our victim witness unit stands side by side with those who have been victims of crime, helping them at a traumatic time in their lives, not only to know their rights, but to shepherd them through the process, knowing when their court dates are, what to expect, etc. And then the rest is administrative support. We seek to serve and do justice. I work with the entire county, all 1.15 million residents, 25 law enforcement agencies in 19 cities. And in 2020, even during the pandemic, we filed almost 8,000 cases, including felonies and misdemeanors in Contra Costa County. One thing that's so important to mention around these filings is that everybody has a part to play. If there is a crime in our community and no one reports it to your local law enforcement, then that's the end of the story. A crime was committed and nobody has an opportunity to do anything about it. If a crime is reported to local law enforcement, they are to investigate that case and hopefully apprehend the subject and bring that case into our office for review and possible prosecution, although we have many other forms and avenues that we can take, which I'll share with you as well. I also want to take time to remind everyone about the smash and grabs, which has been the subject of conversations all over the country, to let people know in Contra Costa County that we have moved fast and swiftly to make sure that those who have committed those crimes here that have been apprehended have been held accountable. We realized as well early on that the people who are committing these crimes are organized. And so we wanted to be organized as well. So I coordinated with the district attorneys in 6 counties to make sure that we are, and that's all the way down to San Joaquin County, Santa Clara County, San Mateo, Alameda. We're all working together to share information because we realize that those who are committing these crimes are traveling from one county to another. I'm also working with state and federal and local law enforcement to bring the best intelligence to the table for prosecution information and holding those accountable who commit these crimes. Every single person who has been apprehended by law enforcement and brought into our office has been charged with serious felonies, including organized retail theft. And so we're sending, and we've also had some cases where we've partnered with the Attorney General's office and been able to get convictions as well. So we're making sure that we're sending a clear message, not here in Contra Costa County. My office has lots of different divisions. Superior Court Operations, that's where all of our basic operations take place. Our general felony trial teams, our law and motion, our mental health attorneys work here as well. Special operations is just that, it's special. It has a lot of different things that you may not think about when you think about the district attorney's office, including our environmental work, real estate fraud, wage and theft work as well. there are many other units. Auto theft is there as well. Our community reduction violence unit is a unit that concentrates on those who are committing violent crime in our community, especially those who are involved in gun activity and gangs. This unit works closely with the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, which I co-lead, that combats violent crime throughout the county. We coordinate resources with federal and state law enforcement, and we concentrate our resources on guns and gangs and violence in the community. I also have, of course, a homicide unit, which is pretty self-explanatory. The family violence unit covers those who are prosecuting cases based on sexual assault, domestic violence, and elder abuse. And then our juvenile units is for those cases where our youth come into the system under the age of 18. I've created some specialty units since I've been in office. One is our conviction integrity unit. This is a unit that has an opportunity to go back and look at old cases and see if there's a possibility that a mistake was made. Because one of the things that we want to make sure we do is to be able to admit when mistakes were made and to right those wrongs. I also created a cold case unit with the changes in our technology and our ability to have DNA evidence at our fingertips. We're now able to go back. We've solved lots of cases using DNA evidence. So now I have a dedicated unit that goes back. It works with all of the law enforcement agencies in our county to go back and look at old unsolved murder cases to see if we can solve those cases and bring justice to those families. I also established a human trafficking unit. This is the first in Contra Costa County. It is a collaborative approach and a comprehensive approach to combat those who are exploiting people in our county for sex or labor. We coordinate with victim services and also many other community-based organizations. We're not just prosecuting here, we're also doing this work through prevention and for providing education and raising community awareness. A very good example of that is the work that we've done around the 23rd Street corridor. If those of us who live in West County are well familiar with the Blade, and the community cried out for a long time. I took the lead to go out, to reach out to officials in Richmond to ask for their help. We now have a table where we sit with the business community and residents in that area to make sure that we're working together to find ways to not only bring heightened community awareness, but also prevention and education as well as prosecution. We learned from our community members that girls on their way to school were being propositioned for trafficking possibilities. And so we then put prosecutors in the schools to go out and educate our young people about the dangers and the warning signs of those who are trying to solicit them. So we've done a lot of work there, especially in West County. I also have a hate crimes committee. It's one of the few in the state of California, because we want to make sure that when those cases come into our office where people are committing crimes against vulnerable members of our community and are members of our community based on their status, that we have experts who can evaluate those cases and prosecute them when appropriate. I also received $1 million grant from the state of California in order to establish the county's first restorative justice juvenile pre-filing diversion program. This diversion program is the county's first. We are partnered with the Rise Youth Center in West County and Impact Justice as well. It initiates a restorative justice program that is directed towards our youth to redirect them from the criminal justice system, reduce the pipeline into the criminal justice system, and also to lower recidivism. We don't expect our kids to come back after they finish our program, and to reduce the racial disparities that exist that are so stark in our criminal justice system. I also am now rolling out our neighborhood community courts. They have been renamed as our neighborhood restorative partnership. Again, this is for adult cases involving low-level crime. We are recruiting members like yourself who have the bandwidth to serve as panelists so that those cases can be handled and heard in our communities, and you can bring appropriate resolutions with oversight from our office. What's an example of that? Well, let's suppose that someone paints graffiti on the side of a business. there is a program that actually has volunteers that come out and repaint over community, excuse me, over graffiti. You could decide, boy, sorry about that. You could decide what it would it take to make that business owner whole. And that might be having the individual repaint their building, holding them accountable, but also making the business whole. You can go on our website and find an application if you're interested.
Okay. That's a lot that you've covered so far. My goodness.
I'll pause for a minute.
Yes, yes, that's fine. I just wanted to say how honored we are to have you here. I remember a few years back when we were meeting in person that you came to one of the Concilio meetings. We're meeting at Richmond High School. And
Yes.
I remember you coming, and it was very nice. And so it's just, it's just a real honor to have you here, Ms. Becton.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up really quickly.
Okay.
I do want to make you aware that we're also partnered with Vera, which helps us take a deep dive into our charging decisions and our decision making to see where we might have racial disparities. And we have secured $1 million in order to stand up a post-sentencing conviction program. We go back and take a look at old draconian sentences that may no longer be in the interest of justice. All of our sexual assault test kits are up to date. I have also brought into the office immigration training and implicit bias training. The immigration is so important. We stood up a new policy and also brought in the training so our prosecutors know what alternatives they have, not only to hold people accountable, but also to avoid, when possible and safe to do so, the harsh consequences of immigration and deportation. Our Code for America work allowed us to dismiss old marijuana convictions that were still on the books that kept residents from getting housing and jobs and student loans. And as you all have been reading in the paper, we have completely revised and revamped our investigations into fatal incidents. And so please contact our office if you are interested in serving as a panelist on our restorative neighborhood partnership, or if you have any other questions about the work that we're doing, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. All right. Are there any questions? You can just raise your hand or just speak up if anyone has any questions. Let's see.
Okay. Well, okay.
Ms. Cronenberg, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Becton, thank you so much for coming. My question is, right now in Contra Costa, what do you think is the biggest priority for the DA's office?
I really have three priorities, which I can state pretty quickly. One, I guess I should say that one of the things that I think people should be aware of is, and I would love to make people more aware of, is everybody's feeling, based on all the information we're hearing, that our communities are not safe. And I do want to make sure that everyone knows that according to the data, though, our violent crime has continued to decrease, and particularly in Contra Costa County. I'm really proud that in 2020, out of the 58 counties, we're one of 4 where our homicide rates actually went down. So we are keeping our community safe, as well as bringing in new policies to bring fairness and equity to this system. In terms of priorities going forward, I would say data and transparency are so important going forward. We want to make sure that as we're doing this work, just as I promised with my police investigations, that we would have our reports and findings on our website when we do not file charges, which you can go there and find today, all the way back to 2018, when I made that pledge. We also want to make sure that we're using data to drive our decisions. And so that's getting the ability to stand up what I call a data dashboard so that you, the citizens, can go right to our website. You can see, what's coming into our office in terms of cases and crime, what we're prosecuting, and what our outcomes are. So that's one of my number one goals for 2022, along with standing up a diversion program for our TAY youth, that's age 18 to 25. It is one of the places where we have very few services, and also where we see some of the huge gaps in terms of racial disparity. So that I think would be number two for me, as well as continuing to find ways to reduce our footprint in mass incarceration.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamila Smith-Folds.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. My question is, as a trailblazer in leadership, what do you find that the school district can be doing better to work with the cities and with other Black women in leadership and women in leadership, period, to make it more accessible for students and for female students to know that they too can be able to have positions of leadership? What could we be doing?
Well, one is Speakers Bureau, I think, for our kids is really important. And also, there was when I was serving as a judge, and we don't have to be judges to do this work, I coordinated a program where we took kids from one of our high schools in Richmond to bring them to the court to spend a half a day to see how the court system works, to see what it looks like to put on a case, to see lawyers in action, and then to sit down in small groups so that each judge and lawyer and other person who worked in the court system took about 10 kids to have conversations with them. And so people could see themselves in these positions.
You're doing a lot of speaking engagements. I know. That's
Sorry, my voice is failing me this morning.
a lot
The
of
other thing that we've been doing that's so important, I think, I do want to mention, is that we do have a county project. It was called RED, where a bunch of us in not only from district attorney's office, but probation, public defenders, from schools, educators, to law enforcement. We spent an intensive week at Georgia University to at their Juvenile Justice Reform Center. And it is an exclusive that is aimed at reducing racial and ethnic disparity in our juvenile justice system. And so one of the things that we're rolling out now in coordination with the school district is figuring out how we can take a look, especially at disciplinary practices, and see if we can get more of a restorative justice lens there to reduce the expulsions and suspensions and arrests, which are drivers into the criminal justice system. So thank you for that question.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Smith-Folds. Any other questions? Oh, yes, there we go. Well, I did have a question about, some of the board meetings are being disrupted and some board members are threatened sometimes. And this seems to be increasing. And my understanding is that it depends what city, whether the law enforcement will even show up when you call them. So I was just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it, especially, as I mentioned earlier, local law enforcement really has to be the leader in that role. And I think in your board meetings and in your council meetings, please work with your mayors and city council members and making sure that they are aware of the safety concerns and asking them to put the resources in place so that those who are trying to do the work, I mean, most of those boards that people are serving on, you're volunteering your time, and you really should feel safe in those spaces. And so I would be asking your city leadership and your local law enforcement agencies to make sure that you're safe in those spaces.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions? Well, Ms. Becton, you mentioned ways that the community can join and serve. If you have any information you can send to me, I can send it out to all the members.
I'd be happy to do that. I will send you the information, the application that's up for our restorative, neighborhood restorative partnership for those who might be interested in being trained as panelists to hear cases in your own community. There are low-level nonviolent cases, and then there is always supervision from the district attorney's office. So I'll send that to you so you can distribute it to your membership.
Excellent. I think people
More
will be
people
very interested.
Mhm.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, we were supposed to have another speaker who did not confirm, but so we can use this time for announcements. And I know, let's start with Betty Brown. I know you have some announcements for us. Oh, you're unmuted.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, in relation to the progress for universal health care for all residents in California, we had a bill 1400 that was introduced by an assemblyman down in the South Bay, and he got it through the two committees in the assembly, appropriations in the health committee, and then when it went before the whole assembly for a vote, because this policy bill has passed in the past. Anyway, he decided to not put it to a vote because he knew he did not have the 41 votes that would be needed for it to pass. And so he pulled the legislation and said it would be introduced again next year. But I wanted you all to understand that the governor has a commission that has been meeting, and they were charged with coming up with a recommendation for financing universal health care in California. And they have not yet issued their report. So it's important for us to hear what that report says. And I remember when they were holding their hearings, that as an active community organization supporting this legislation or this policy, that Jessica, who has been a past co-convener of our Concilio Latino, gave very excellent testimony to one of those commission hearings. And I wanted you to know we all appreciated that. Anyway, so the progress comes slowly, but I'm hoping for the best. So it's going to be taken up again next year. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Betty. Very good. Any other announcements? Oh, we had some people join us, want to introduce themselves. Magdalena?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Magdalena. I'm a staffer with Congressman Mark Dezonia's office.
Thank you very much. And Yenny?
Hello, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Yenny Garcia. I am a community advocate. And yeah, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yes. Thank you. All right. Any other announcements?
I had something quick. It's not exactly an announcement, I guess, but I was wondering if people saw that there was an article in the Richmond Pulse about Bienvenida Meza, who is a teacher at Verde Elementary School that works with the partnership garden there. It was really exciting, and I'll put the link in the chat because I guess I have a personal interest because Bienvenida was my student at one time, but I just thought, this is something that's working well in our district, and I'm just wondering if the superintendent knows about it, if the board knows about it. I mean, one thing I noticed in the article was her son said she's really good with the bad kids. And I was thinking that's so important, people who can reach those kids who are not engaged or sometimes acting up. So I'll put that link in the chat.
Oh, yes, please, because then we can post it as well. So that's a good, and this is the Richmond Pulse, right?
Yeah, Richmond Pulse. Yeah.
Okay. Any other last announcements here? Yes, Ms. Cronenberg.
I'm going to give an announcement for Miss Smith Folds, because the big event is tomorrow morning when Miss Smith Folds and Trustee Gonzalez Hoy hold their monthly listening sessions. And so if you go on Facebook, you can see the link to that. And if you want to really have some input into your two of your trustees on the school board, it's a really unique opportunity that Miss Smith Folds and Mr. Gonzalez Hoy provide. I try to never miss one because I think they really are. It's a chance to ask questions and get some answers. And there's a lot going on right now in the school district, and many of the school systems around are all struggling because we continue to underfund education. And but that's for another conversation. I just wanted to put that out there as an event.
Great. She gave a thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up. She's going to be there.
Yeah, talk about a direct link, and they really
Absolutely
listen, and they're there, they show up, and it's great. All the board members.
To use the superintendent's term, I think it's an example of a moonshot, right? Trying something very different. Yeah, see, she likes that. Right? I think it's an absolute moonshot that they do it. I think it's a moonshot that their vote, the vote that was taken last week by the board was a moonshot as well. But that's another story too.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, one announcement I have is next, I already sent out the link or the flyer about on the March 26th, the community health fair, or you can get vaccinations and all kinds of things that are happening. And I'm going to send it out again. And especially you can volunteer in the morning, afternoon. There's all kinds of things that you can do to help promote this. So I'm going to send it out once more because they do need volunteers. Okay. Anybody else have any last words or announcements?
I do. Yeah. So I just want to say happy International Women's History Month to all of us. And thank you all for all the work that you do in the community, for everything that you do. It really makes a difference in our lives. And so thank you so much, Betty, Kristen, Consuelo, Magdalena, Jamila, Madeline. I mean, Yoali, I'm just naming all of you because you're here. Thank you for everything you do. Las mujeres make the world better. So, yeah, enjoy the weekend and some time to love on yourself, and, self-care is important. So enjoy it. Enjoy the sun.
Thank you. What a great way to end the meeting. Uplifted. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Anything else you think of that you want to share, send it to me and I will send it out to everyone. All right. And we'll see you April the 15th. Oh, texting.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Bye.